June 1944. Normandy. A convoy of Sherman tanks rolls toward the frontline, engines growling, treads tearing up the mud. German reconnaissance planes photograph them from above. Artillery spotters mark their position. Intelligence officers in Berlin update their maps. None of it is real. The tanks are rubber. 4 men can lift one and carry it like a mattress. The engine sounds are coming from speakers mounted on trucks, broadcasting recordings of real armored divisions from over half a mile away. The radio chatter German listening posts are recording orders, complaints. Unit call signs is being faked in real time by a small group of soldiers who were, until recently, painters, sound engineers, and advertising men. This is the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, roughly 1,100 men. No tanks, no heavy weapons. Their job was to become an entire phantom army and convince Adolf Hitler's generals it was real. Here's the question that should stop you. How do you fool the most sophisticated military intelligence apparatus in Europe using balloons, loudspeakers, and a paintbrush? By 1944, Allied commanders had a problem that no amount of firepower could solve. Wherever a real division moved, German intelligence noticed. Troop concentrations gave away invasion points. Every convoy, every radio transmission, every supply dump was a clue the enemy could read, and in a war being decided by inches of coastline and days of surprise, being read meant being killed. The Allies needed to be in 2 places at once. They needed absent divisions to appear present and present divisions to vanish. It sounded like a magic trick. It had to work like one. So the US Army did something almost nobody expected. It didn't recruit more infantry. It recruited artists. Among the men assigned to the unit were a fashion illustrator who would later dress presidents' wives, a wildlife painter, a camouflage expert, and a young combat artist who sketched what he saw between missions because he couldn't stop noticing light and shadow, even in a war zone. Officers back in Washington had gambled on something strange, that people trained to render an illusion convincingly on canvas could render one convincingly across an entire battlefield. One of the men who shaped how that gamble worked had spent his pre-war life obsessed with a very specific idea that soldiers don't just look for the enemy, they listen for him. A convoy has a rhythm. An armored division has a particular grinding hum, different from infantry trucks, different from artillery caissons. If you could record that signature and play it back from the right hidden speakers, at the right volume, at the right hour of night, when sound carries farthest across still air, a listening post 6 miles away wouldn't just hear an army. They would believe one. That single insight that deception isn't about hiding, it's about performing, became the foundation for everything the unit did. Nothing about their equipment looked deadly. Rubber tanks weighing less than 100 pounds, sound trucks disguised as ordinary supply vehicles, fake shoulder patches sewn on by hand so military police checkpoints would see the insignia of divisions that weren't actually there. Radio operators trained to imitate the exact typing rhythm, the fist of specific real operators from real units, because German codebreakers had learned to recognize individuals by how they tapped Morse code. Every piece looked almost absurd on its own. Why paint a tank shadow at 4 p.m. instead of noon? Why route fake convoy traffic through a specific crossroads instead of the fastest route? Why radio a false supply request 3 days before it was needed rather than the day of? Each answer came later. And each answer was the same. Because that's exactly what the real unit would have done. And the real unit's habits were what the enemy was watching for. On the other side of the line, German intelligence officers were confident. They had spent years building a picture of Allied order of battle, which divisions existed, where they trained, how they moved. Their radio intercept teams were excellent. Their aerial reconnaissance was thorough. They trusted their sources completely because their sources had never lied to them before. That confidence was the vulnerability. An intelligence service that trusts its own methods stops questioning what those methods report. When the fake convoys rolled past, when the false radio traffic crackled through, German analysts didn't see a trick. They saw confirmation of what good intelligence work was supposed to look like. Then the operation escalated. Fake divisions arrived at the front in places where no real divisions stood. Real units, meanwhile, quietly disappeared from the picture, entirely hidden, silent, radios dark, while their absence was covered by a unit small enough to fit in a few trucks. Sound crews broadcast bridge-building noises where no bridge was being built. Radio teams simulated the panicked, garbled chatter of a division in disarray, followed by the calm, orderly traffic of a division regrouping. An entire emotional arc broadcast into the air for an audience of listening posts. German commanders shifted reserves toward the phantom threat. Real Allied units, freed from surveillance, moved undetected toward the actual point of attack. And here is the twist that makes the whole story land. The unit's greatest fear was never being caught by the enemy. It was being seen by their own side. If American soldiers on a nearby road spotted men lifting a tank like a beach ball, the illusion would collapse in an afternoon through nothing more than gossip. Their secrecy had to hold against friend and foe alike, which meant living inside the lie, constantly training themselves to flinch at a passing jeep, as though it might expose the entire operation. For decades after the war, most of what the unit did remained classified. The men who painted fake unit insignia and broadcast fake tank engines went home and became, in several cases, genuinely famous artists. Their wartime work in deception, a secret they carried alongside their real careers. Unmentioned in interviews, unmentioned in biographies. Because the files stayed sealed, historians estimate the unit staged more than 20 major deceptions across Europe, and that its operations likely saved thousands of lives by drawing German attention and firepower away from real Allied forces. Exact casualty figures tied specifically to their deceptions are difficult to isolate, since a battle avoided leaves no body count, only the quiet fact that certain divisions crossed certain rivers without opposition that should, by every German calculation, have been waiting for them. What the Ghost Army proved was not simply that illusion could substitute for firepower. It proved that, in modern warfare, information itself had become a weapon as decisive as any artillery piece, and that the side willing to lie more convincingly could, in the right moment, outmaneuver an army many times its size. Today, the fields where those inflatable tanks once sat under camouflage netting are quiet farmland. Nothing marks most of the spots where a fake convoy idled for a night to fool a reconnaissance photograph. The men who built those illusions are almost all gone now, and for most of their lives, they couldn't tell anyone what they'd actually done in the war. They didn't storm beaches. They didn't take hills. They built a story convincing enough that an empire's intelligence service believed it, and an empire's army moved because of it.